Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India Live, India's voice to the world. I'm Mark Lynn. Coming up in the next 30 minutes. Namaskar. A Liberian flagged ship with 15 Indians on board hijacked off Somalia coast. Indian Navy deploys INS Chennai warship to get the situation under control. Israeli Defense Minister outlines post-war governance plan for Gaza, says that Hamas will not be allowed to rule over Gaza. The U.S. Secretary of State begins his fourth recent visit to the region. South Korea conducts live firing drills after North Korea fires 200 artillery shells near the sea border. North Korea says that it is responding to South Korean military actions. Tensions rise. The Indian Navy sprung into action as the news of the Liberian flagged ship being hijacked in the Arabian Sea near the coast of Somalia came to light with 15 Indian crew members on board. As a response, the Indian Navy deployed the INS Chennai warship to monitor the maritime security operations and to ensure the safety of the crew. The vessel had sent a message on a portal indicating boarding by approximately 5 to 6 unknown armed personnel in the evening of the 4th of January, Thursday. And the naval aircraft, they are continuing to monitor movement, and INS Chennai is closing in on the vessel to render assistance. The Indian Navy remains committed to ensuring safety of merchant shipping in the region, along with international partners and friendly foreign countries. Yemen's Houthi rebels detonated an explosives-laden boat in the Red Sea, defying the United States' final warning against any such attacks. The blast failed to cause any damage or casualties. The U.S. military said that the boat came within a couple of miles of the merchant vessels and the U.S. Navy ships operating in the area. The incident comes a day after 12 countries, including the U.S., UK, and Japan, issued a joint statement cautioning the Houthis of unspecified consequences unless they halt their attacks. The UK Foreign Secretary David Cameron has warned Houthis of international action if the attacks continue.
Well, I'm not going to spell out here what action will be taken, but it's quite clear to me this is unacceptable, this is illegal, it's not to do with Gaza, it's not to do with Israel, this is about the freedom of navigation, this is about the ability of ships to carry their cargo. The world economy, every economy, will suffer if ships keep coming under attack in this illegal and unacceptable way. And these attacks need to stop or actions will be taken.
Israel has outlined proposals for the future governance of Gaza once the conflict between Hamas and Israel is over. The Israeli Defense Minister Yoav Gallant has said that there would be a limited Palestinian rule in the territory. Hamas would no longer control Gaza. Israel would retain overall control of the security situation in the enclave. Gallant also said that the army would adopt a more targeted approach in the north and continue to pursue Hamas leaders in the south. At the same time, they would continue working to free the remaining hostages held by Hamas. Well, all this comes as the U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken returns to the Middle East on Friday. He's expected to hold talks with the Israeli leaders and the Palestinian officials in the West Bank in an effort to increase humanitarian access to Gaza. The State Department spokesperson Matthew Miller said that Blinken will also visit a number of other countries in the region.
Over the course of the next week, the Secretary will visit Turkey, Greece, Jordan, Qatar, the United Arab Emirates, Saudi Arabia, Israel, the West Bank, and Egypt for meetings with foreign counterparts and others. The Secretary will focus on a number of critical issues on this trip. First, he will discuss immediate measures to increase substantially humanitarian assistance to Gaza. The United States has played a critical role in unlocking humanitarian assistance for the Palestinian people, but conditions remain extremely difficult. The Secretary will stress the imperative of expanding and sustaining safe access for humanitarian organizations to deliver food, water, medicine, as well as for commercial goods to enter all areas of Gaza.
As fighting between the Israeli army and Hezbollah intensifies over Israel's northern border, the European Union Foreign Policy Chief Joseph Borrell is visiting Lebanon. He's doing so on Friday, and Borrell will spend the weekend as well in Beirut. They'll be discussing the situation at the Israeli-Lebanese border, and they'll be exploring ways to avoid regional escalation. And here's DD India correspondent Trent Murray's assessment of the situation.
Well, this is a much anticipated announcement from Yoav Gallant because certainly Israel has faced international pressure to outline how it views the governance of Gaza in what is being described here as the day after the war comes to an end. They've released this one-page document. I think the main takeaways are that Israel has accepted that Gaza remains part of Palestine and therefore Palestinian civil affairs need to be managed by the political architecture of Palestinian groups. But they have said that the idea that Hamas will have any sort of leadership role in the future is simply a non-starter for them. Israel is also saying that it wants to keep boots on the ground effectively and maintain security within the Gaza Strip regardless moving forward. They say they also want to continue to inspect all of the goods that go in and out of Gaza. This will be the fourth visit for Secretary Blinken to the region in the wake of October 7th, the fifth if you include his visit to Israel with President Biden in the days after that attack by Hamas. We know that there is a very large number of issues that he wants to discuss both here but with some of those other countries we heard there before like Saudi Arabia, Qatar and Egypt. First and foremost is the situation in Gaza. We know America has been pushing for answers from Israel on when it will move away from its heavy warfare based on airstrikes and artillery strikes to something more targeted in order to try and prevent that civilian death toll continuing to mount. We know the issue of hostages will also be released, 129 of them still being held by Hamas militants within Gaza, including American citizens, and then some of these regional issues like the Red Sea, which we just heard about there, and also that situation in Lebanon. Tensions there remain very, very high. The Israeli army says it remains at its highest state of readiness along the northern border of Israel, effectively waiting and watching to see whether the Lebanon-based Hezbollah group will respond to that airstrike in Beirut earlier this week.
And moving on, Iran's president and the commander-in-chief of the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps vowed revenge during an address at the funeral of the victims of the bomb attack. And on Friday, Riasi addressed thousands of mourners who had gathered in Kerman, about 820 kilometers southeast of the capital, Tehran. Nearly 100 people were killed at the memorial in the city of Kerman on Wednesday for the top commander Qasem Soleimani, who was assassinated in Iraq in 2020 by a U.S. drone. President Ibrahim Raisi said that the enemies can see Iran's power.
Our enemies can see Iran's power, and the whole world knows its strength and capabilities. Our forces will decide on the place and time to take action. These deaths are the consequences of the defeats that have been inflicted on the Western powers and its regional supporters in recent years.
Meanwhile, White House security spokesperson John Kirby said that the United States is in no position to doubt Islamic State's claim. Kirby added that the U.S. had not seen any indication of a direct link between the Israel-Hamas war in Gaza and the attack in Iran on the anniversary of Soleimani's death.
We have seen the public credit now that ISIS-K has taken for the attack in Iran. We're certainly in no position to doubt that claim by ISIS-K. I haven't seen anything that indicates there's a direct link to what's going on in Gaza and with the attack in Iran on the anniversary of Soleimani's death. I haven't seen anything tangible that would tell me that there's a link there.
The UK has condemned reports that Russia is using ballistic missiles sourced from North Korea to attack Ukraine. The White House said on Thursday that North Korea recently provided Russia with ballistic missiles and launchers which it believes were used in a major air attack on December 29. A spokesperson for the UK Foreign Office said in a statement that North Korea is subject to a robust sanctions regime. Britain is working to ensure that North Korea pays a high price for supporting what the UK calls Russia's illegal war in Ukraine. In the unfolding Russia-Ukraine war, significant events transpired as the Russian air defense systems intercepted and took down 10 airborne targets near Belgorod late on Thursday. The targets were neutralized as they approached the city. Russia reported 25 civilian casualties, including 5 children, from attacks last weekend. Concurrently, Ukraine successfully thwarted 21 out of 29 Shahid drones. They were launched by Russia in an overnight assault, as disclosed by Kiev's Air Force on Friday. The downing of these drones occurred across 6 regions encompassing the southern, central and western parts of Ukraine. Shifting focus now to Asia, and tensions are escalating on the Korean Peninsula. South Korea conducted live fire drills after North Korea launched over 200 coastal artillery shells near a disputed maritime border. South Korean defense forces have been monitoring North Korea's activities along its shores with the cooperation of the U.S. military. Meanwhile, South Korea also ordered an evacuation on an island near its border, with North Korea citing an unspecified situation. A spokesperson for the Joint Chiefs of Staff issued this warning.
We sternly warn North Korea that they are fully responsible for this escalation of the crisis, and we strongly urge them to stop it. Our military is tracking and monitoring related situation in close cooperation with the US and the South Korea, and will implement measures in response to the North Korea's provocations.
And here's DD India correspondent Andrew Wood's take on the situation.
The South Koreans have sent an angry message to North Korea. North Korean and South Korean relations have deteriorated over the past year, in particular after the latest missiles and rockets that North Korea fired. There's been a lot more of them, and they've been fired either into the Sea of Japan, which the Koreans call the East Sea, or over Japan and into the Pacific Ocean. And both sides have suspended an agreement that they'd made to try to, well, reduce tensions on the border by saying that they wouldn't carry out exercises near to the border.
Well, let's take a look now at other stories making news around the world. The United Kingdom woke up to major flooding in the Midlands region on Friday. This after a night of relentless heavy rainfall caused by Storm Henk. Some residential areas needed to be evacuated in Nottinghamshire County region because of the flooding. A head-on train collision in West Java, Indonesia, claimed 4 crew members' lives and injured 28 passengers. The derailment occurred on Friday in a rice field. 2 crew members lost their lives between the carriages. Anders Breivik, who had killed 77 people in a bomb attack and shooting spree in Norway in 2011, is once again suing the Norwegian government. Now he wants to end his solitary confinement in prison. Breivik believes that his human rights are being violated after spending 10 years in isolation. Still to come here on DD India Live. Tokyo Haneda Airport runway is expected to reopen on January 8 after the tragic plane collision earlier this week. Bangladesh is set to hold the national election this Sunday, January 7, with campaigning concluding on Friday. Oscar Pistorius, renowned para-athlete, is freed on parole in South Africa nearly 11 years after he murdered his girlfriend.
we bring to you the legendary city of Ayodhya and tell you what makes Ayodhya everything that has got to do with the land of Lord Ram.
यहाँ रग रग में हर जगह राम ही है। सनातन धर्म के लिए तो गौरव की बात है। कण कण में भी भगवान राम की सत्ता का एहसास हमें होता है यदि हम लोग ध्यान से उसका अवलोकन करें। आज भी होता है।
This is 10th century old Hanumangadi temple.
यहाँ हनुमान जी महाराज राजा के रूप में बैठे हैं। भारत की संस्कार संस्कृति मठ से मंदिर से साधु से संत से ऋषि से मुनि से महात्मा से जुड़ा हुआ है।
ये विष्णु का मस्तक है तो यहाँ पे हर कण पावन है। यहाँ
Welcome back. You're watching DD India Live. My name is Mark Lin. The quake hit to Japan will tap around $33 million of budget reserves to cover the damages. The Prime Minister, Fumio Kishida, said that his cabinet would approve this emergency funding next week. Now, Japan will also work with the United States military to intensify earthquake relief operations. Rescuers have pressed on in the search for survivors as the 3-day survival window ended on Thursday afternoon. According to sources, the Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi wrote to his Japanese counterpart Fumio Kishida following the earthquake in Japan on January 4th. He said, and I quote, "I am deeply anguished and concerned to learn about the major earthquake that struck Japan on the 1st of January 2024. I express my deepest condolence to the bereaved families of those who lost their lives. We stand in solidarity with Japan and its people affected by the disaster. As a special strategic and global partner, India values its relationship with Japan and is ready to extend all possible assistance at this hour." Meanwhile, the runway at Tokyo's Haneda Airport that had been closed since that collision between those two aircraft is likely to reopen now on January 8. The Japanese transport minister said that crews at the airport, one of the world's busiest, began clearing the charred wreckage from the runway on Friday. Meanwhile, Japan has sought assistance with the Honeywell manufactured recorders, but it is unclear if the recorders will be brought to Washington for analysis or if NTSB personnel will travel to Japan to offer support.
We are currently in the stage of removing the aircraft that was involved in the accident. After that, we will proceed with restoration work on the runway. If no major problems come up during this process, we expect to be able to resume operation on January 8. Starting from January 6, we have decided to deploy personnel at Haneda Airport to constantly monitor the runway and cruise and radar. We hope to announce a series of emergency preventative measures, including this one by the end of the holiday weekend.
Well, let's take a look now at some election-related news stories from around the world. Bangladesh set to hold the national election on Sunday, January 7, for which campaigning concluded on Friday. The Bangladesh Nationalist Party is calling a nationwide strike from Saturday to Monday to boycott this election. On the other hand, religious minority community leaders, they have urged for robust security measures for the minority communities during the pre as well as the post-polling periods of this election. Taiwan is all set for presidential and legislative elections that are scheduled for January 13. The elections are taking place against the backdrop of increased pressure from China as Beijing seeks to bolster its sovereignty claims. Ahead of the elections, China has begun increasing pressure on the island, reiterating that reunification with China is inevitable. The UK Prime Minister Rishi Sunak suggests a general election in the second half of the year. In a statement, he refused to rule out holding an election in May, coinciding with the local elections. He said that he had to get the economy back on track. The Prime Minister's comments come amid pressure from the opposition parties to call an election in spring. India ranks 4th in the world in cutting-edge military drone technology. This is due to the Modi government's push for Made in India UAVs and innovation that aims to make India a drone hub by 2030. Nandita Dagar reports.
India's Defence Minister Rajnath Singh inaugurated a mega drone show at the Hindon Air Base near Delhi in September last year. The Indian Air Force joined forces with the Drone Federation of India to host the much-anticipated Bharat Drone Shakti 2023 event. This was a showcase of the technological prowess and testament to India's resolve to establish itself as a global drone hub by 2030. India is at the forefront of drone technology, fostering innovation and bolstering capabilities in both civil and defense applications. The Indian Air Force has been a pioneer in integrating drone technology into its operations. The remotely piloted aircraft, or RPA, has become indispensable for intelligence, surveillance and reconnaissance operations. India ranks 4th in the world in terms of drone technology. Last month, the DRDO carried out a flight test of Swift, a stealth wing technology demonstrator that looks similar to the deadly US B-2 bomber jet in Chitradurga in Karnataka. The Swift is a prototype or scaled-down version of the upcoming unmanned combat aerial vehicle, or Ghatak. The Indian Army, under its Make in India initiative, signed a contract to purchase more than 450 completely indigenous Nagastra-1 loitering drones. Drone capabilities have been well established in recent conflicts worldwide, like the conflict between Armenia and Azerbaijan, the conflict between Russia and Ukraine, and the ongoing war between Israel and Hamas. In New Delhi, this is Nandita Dagar for DD India.
And there's some news that's coming in. Well, the Indian Navy's swift response to the hijacking attempt of MV Leela Norfolk in the North Arabian Sea. The INS Chennai was diverted from her anti-piracy patrol and it intercepted the MV at 15:15 hours on the 5th of January 2024. The marine vessel was kept under continuous surveillance using maritime patrol aircraft, Predator MQ-9B and integral helos. And what happened is that the Indian Navy Marine Commandos present on board the mission deployed warship boarded the MV, and they've commenced the sanitization operations there. This news has come in. In fact, it's been given by our correspondent Akshay Dongre. If he's on the line, then we can talk to him about it. But otherwise, we shall continue with the bulletin. The Viksit Bharat Sankalp Yatra is being undertaken across India with the aim to inform people about the government welfare measures by ensuring that their benefits reach the targeted beneficiaries in a time-bound manner. In a short span of 50 days, over 100 million people have participated in this yatra. The yatra has reached the Union Territory of Jammu and Kashmir. The IEC van arrived in the state's Riyasi district, in the Union Territory's Riyasi district, Jammu and Kashmir, where the communities welcomed it with great enthusiasm. The event featured drone and soil health card demonstrations, along with health camps providing on-the-spot services to all panchayats. On the occasion, several beneficiaries shared their progressive stories under the segment which is called Meri Kahani Meri Zubani. That's really telling your own story. And as we said earlier, in a swift response to the hijacking attempt of the MV Leela Norfolk in the North Arabian Sea, the Indian Navy has stated in a message that the INS Chennai was diverted from her anti-piracy patrol. It intercepted the MV at 15:15 hours on the 5th of January 2024. The marine vessel was kept under continuous surveillance using maritime patrol aircraft, Predator MQ-9B and integral helos. And what happened is that the Indian Navy Marine Commandos then present on board the mission, they deployed onto the warship, they boarded it, and they boarded the MV. They've started the sanitization. So this is news that has come in. As we were telling you earlier, the INS Chennai, which is a warship, was diverted after the Liberian ship was hijacked near Somalia, and 5 or 6 people had boarded that ship. a message went out, and the INS Chennai was then diverted. Akshay Dongre is with us. Akshay, just fill us in with the details of this message that you've given us, also about the methods that have been involved and the sanitization process.
Well, the sanitization process will involve the Marine Commandos to, in fact, take a thorough check, inspection of the merchant vessel Leela that was, in fact, hijacked yesterday. And soon after the hijacking, a message was sent to the Indian Navy that there was an hijacking attempt where 5 to 6 armed pirates had entered into the naval ship. They had tried to take control of the ship, and that is when the message was sent to the Indian Navy. But in a span of 24 hours, or rather less than that, the kind of operation that has been executed by Indian Navy is commendable, given the fact that similar kind of activities have been taking place not just in the Gulf of Aden, an area which has been notorious for similar kind of piracy attempts, but now in the Arabian Sea as well. So what we are seeing right now is pirates trying to take advantage of the situation that is emerging in the Red Sea because of the ongoing Israel-Hamas conflict. So the kind of operation that is being carried out right now is to ensure that no pirate is left on the merchant vessel. And a very interesting information that has been given to us by the Indian Navy is the fact that it's not just the PA type Poseidon that has been used by the Indian Navy to ensure the safety of the crew and to get in touch with them. In fact, along with the PA type Poseidons, MQ Reaper drones have also been used that have been procured by the Indian Navy from the US. So all-round usage of technology has been done by the Indian Navy to execute this mission, and now we can expect the evacuation of all of these people who were on the merchant vessel to be done within a short span of time as far as the operation is concerned.
Right, Akshay, also that you did mention about the Marine Commandos, and you know, we remember the Marcos. They were actually significantly responsible right at the start of you know, the 26/11 response. They were the first responders at that point of time too. So tell us a little bit about the Marcos and you know what their capabilities are.
Well, Marcos is the special commando unit of the Indian Navy. Like there are similar kind of special units of all the branches of the Indian Armed Forces. For example, the Indian Army has para-commandos which specialize into certain kind of anti-terror operations. The Indian Air Force has Garud commandos, and similarly the Indian Navy has Marcos, which is at par with some of the best forces that operate under the seas and as far as the maritime domain of warfare is concerned, like the Navy SEALs that US has. So similar kind of technology is being used by the Marcos as well. Similar kind of tactics are being used by Marcos as well, and a significant portion of the operation that the naval commandos execute is about anti-piracy operations, trying to rescue you know, friendly forces or the citizens of our countries from these kind of situations. So they are well trained in order to safely evacuate people in any kind of anti-terror or anti-piracy events like this one that has happened today. And that is why as the commandos have now entered the merchant vessel Leela Norfolk, we can expect the mission to be executed completely within the next few minutes.
Indeed. And what finally, what sort of message will this send, you know, to pirates trying to operate on a larger canvas, in a sense, within the Arabian Sea? You did mention that they usually worked within the Gulf of Aden, but trying to venture out into the Arabian Sea, being treated a pretty big lesson here.
Well, absolutely. In fact, when 2 attacks were carried out, one attack was carried out by the pirates against the merchant vessel that was flagged off by Malta, MV Ruin, and then there was merchant vessel Sai Baba. When these 2 vessels had come under attack, the Defense Minister of India had given a very stern message that even if the pirates or people who have attacked these ships, be it the drone attacks or attempts of piracy, they will be brought to justice, even if the system has to go you know, underwater and bring them from the beds of the oceans and the seas. So that was clearly a very stern message, and it seems that after today's incident, or in fact after yesterday's incident of this hijacking, more deployment of ships will be done in these impacted areas.
We'll leave it there. Thank you very much, Akshay, for putting that into context for us and breaking that news for us. That's all we have in this edition of DD India Live. But let's know your thoughts on the news of the day. Connect with us on Facebook, X, formerly known as Twitter, and Instagram. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. My name is Mark Lind. From all of us, thank you for watching DD India Live. Namaskar.